and I'm sure you've heard that too. Like people in the office have more issues than remote. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, I mean, I guess I can kind of take lead on this call. Essentially,
well, I was going to go through. Let me pull up. I'll share my screen real quick. I mean, this isn't really. I hadn't intended this to be the planning. This is just more of this is who this is. This is why we're doing it right now. All that good stuff. So, Arcelormittal is the subsidiary of a very, very large international, steel distributor. So we were contacted in April of 24, so a year and a half ago, and the CFO at the time said, hey, we don't really have an audit requirement. Our numbers are too small for the group to require an audit. And so when we got the numbers, we got $90 million balance sheet, $140 million revenue, and it's too small for this company, right, to even require an audit. So it's a pretty big company at the parent level. But they contacted us in April and said, hey, we'd like to have an audit because we think we're going to keep growing and we're going to need it anyway. So we said, okay, great. The only problem is you can tell your dominant asset is inventory, and we're in April of 24. So we're going to have to do an observation and roll it back to 12/31/23 to get the beginning balance. And so we went back and forth with the fee quote for a month or so. Next thing you know, it's August. We still haven't done anything. We finally get an engagement letter signed. I can't remember when it was, but we didn't get the observation scheduled and done until November. So what should have been like a 5-month rollback turned into an 11-month rollback exercise, which was that's where all the time was spent, is just doing rollback testing, purchases, sales, just gathering all the information. So we started doing some work in, I don't know, maybe it was December of 24, spilled over into January, and we told I guess I should back up. Sometime around that time, no, I'm sorry, that CFO was still there. We told him that, hey, if this gets to like the third week of January, we're going to have to drop this, because we had priced this for summer work. And they were understanding, right? Because there's no deadline on their side. They just want to get the audit process started. So we put our pencils down, mid-January, and picked it back up in May or June. Well, when we get to May or June, CFO had left and they had hired a new person in. So we weren't really starting over, but we had to kind of explain where we were, kind of catch them up to speed. Then we had the transaction, and we were put under the July 31st deadline deal, where if it's going to go out under PKF, it's got to be done by July 31st. So we got with the client and said, we have got to get this done. And you can see we issued on the 30th. So just slipped it under the wire for a PKF issuance. We did have a qualified opinion, and the only reason is because IFRS requires comparative financial statements, and we couldn't go back to 22. I mean, it was just too much to ask. So they agreed up front that this year would be a qualified opinion for that reason. And when we issue 24, that'll go away because we'll have comparative financial statements. So we finished in July. We issued on the 30th. The one thing I need to do in the binder, I'm almost positive. So I lost my team, right? So Bryant and Jay left. The binder's in really good shape. The only thing that's missing that I see is the final communication letters. And I swear we sent those out. So I just need to find those, put them in the binder, and finalize the binder. Everything else is signed off and done. So from a rolling the binder perspective, I think it's good to go ahead and roll to 24. But so I don't know, it was around, these files are on the network. You'll see it in the 24 folder on the network. We did inventory observations like around the 17th or 18th of January. So we have all that information saved. We just need to pull that into the binder, and we will have to do some minor rollback testing from like the 17th to 12/31/24. So just a couple weeks. So much less than we had to do last year. Hold on just a second. Shut my door. So anyway, if you look at the financials, like I said, you've got a little bit of cash. So the issue with cash is they have like a cash sharing arrangement with their parent. So when they need cash, they borrow it from the parent. When they have excess cash, the parent sucks it away. So it makes sense that they don't have a whole lot of cash, but cash is pretty quick. I mean, it's like one or two accounts and you're done.
Do we even need to do anything if it's sold below TM?
No, and that's the other thing. I mean,
we really don't, right?
Yeah, we really don't even need to do anything.
Okay.
Assuming it's the same way this year, you know.
Yeah.
Well, so the other thing is we already have, so this is 12/31/24. We already have the general ledger, the trial balance, details, all that's in the folder on the network. We don't have everything we need, but we've got the big rocks that we need to make, sample selections. So this notes receivable affiliate is what I was talking about. So that's where they've sent all the cash over, and they basically have a receivable from their parent. And then inventory. So their inventory, I believe, is significantly down from this. So what happened was when the tariffs hit, well, this was 25. I think in 24, things were slowing down. I'd have to check myself. They may have done, a lot of people at the end of 24 bought a ton of inventory because they thought, they knew that tariffs were coming. So I can't recall what the balance on the inventory is, but anyway, it's typical procedures. We've done an observation. We're going to do price testing. We're going to do lower cost or net realizable value. We're going to do cutoff testing. We'll have to, our risk assessment under the Witham way, we'll definitely have to, think through this. I feel like the way we had it risk assessed last year will probably be the same. They've got one, and here's another one, Ollie. I mean, I think if they don't have any more leases, all they have is an office space. It could be this is just a roll forward we really don't do much on. Some regular AP, some related party, AP, and then accrued liabilities. It's pretty straightforward stuff on the balance sheet. P&L, pretty sure revenue's down from this amount. They don't have very much. So, remember on the when we're testing when we're testing revenue and expenses under Witham, cost of sales does not get included in the P&L testing because we're testing that through inventory. So
Yeah.
we've only got, really like $5 million of expenses. So our sample for expenses should be pretty low.
If at all.
Yeah, if at all. Sales, that's going to be the one thing that we, I think we may have done one a month, last year. So our sales sample is going to be quite a bit higher.
So,
the good
Michael,
thing
on this one, I do have a question for you. If you can kind of walk us through, if you even remember, what their collection procedures or like the turnaround time is, because that's going to impact how much we do for cutoff versus existence and all that good stuff.
I don't, let me see here. I don't recall there being like a collection issue.
So what I mean is like, usually if it was an oil and gas, for example, right? Like we know it's a 2-month delay. They're going to build, they're going to collect 2 months later. So usually for cutoff, that's kind of what they want us to do is figure out what the average turnaround time is from when they collect before the invoice and when they collect. And if you recall, usually it's about a month or so. So if we need to do cutoff testing, that's how it would be impacted technically.
Oh yeah. Let me see. I'm pulling up last year's ratios work paper. I don't recall there being a lot of aged AR. And that's the thing. I mean, we could go ahead and get confirmations sent out since this is a year. I mean, we're not waiting on anything.
Did we do confirmations for AR for this? Well, probably, right? Because it's an affiliate. So, okay.
Here we go. So, it's. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can share this. Do you see this? Do you see 3 screens or just one?
I see 3 screens, but it's fine. I can zoom in and I can see it.
Okay. I mean, I'll try and also blow it up.
Right now, I see the ratios.
Yeah. So you've got kind of a split here. You can see, like this was 22. They had a huge surge in sales right at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And so it really pulled back in 23. But there is, there's a $1.1 million hanging out here in the 61 to 90. So good thing is 90 plus is a credit. So they don't have anything extremely aged. But, I don't know that. I think we're just going to have to drop in this year's and see how it falls out, because I think it really just depends on what's going on at the time, as far as how long their turnaround time is. So let me see if I can do this. So really, the bulk of the work is in inventory. As you would kind of expect, we got finished goods. They do a little bit of, and we didn't really do much work on it. They do a little bit of threading or treating or something, but the cost that it gets added onto the pipe is immaterial. So we didn't really spend any time on, well, what's the labor for that? Does it get allocated correctly? It's because it's all so de minimis when you're looking at the pipes. All this inventory roll forward work, it's like I said, it's going to be a couple weeks, not almost a whole year. We've got a movement report, just kind of help us with slow moving inventory. But yeah, almost nothing in prepaids, nothing in fixed assets. Just regular search for AP. They do have some accruals. I honestly can't remember exactly what their major accruals were. It looks like accrued AP. Maybe that's those in transit accounts. That's the dominant. It's the dominant work paper. It looks like there's a $10.8 million figure. This basically everything else almost nets out.
Here's the cool part that I've seen under Witham. You see how the trivial is 50K? So I'm assuming 500K was your TM last year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But under this year, we're going to be doing 2.5%, so TM will be significantly higher.
Yep.
And if that was the case, we probably will only be doing something on that 10 million. Everything else is subject to search. And that would be it, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, see, we broke out that $110 million and kind of did a little test work on it last year.
Makes sense.
So, anyway, it is a pretty straightforward audit. They use SAP, so it's like, usually if you use SAP right, anything you need is in the system. You just need to know how to run the report and ask for the information.
Right.
You just have to remember that this is IFRS, so all of the programs and checklists and all that need to be for the IFRS. And we might need to get together and, once we're thinking about risk assessment for revenue and think through that, just so we don't have a giant, sample, just try and, justify that down as much as we can.
So, and speaking of that, right, that will be the second big bulk of testing that we would need to do would be the P&L testing under Witham, and there's not going to be prior year items. So that's where I want to ask, both Maheen and Lynn, if both of you have done anything under Witham so far related to P&L testing.
I have not.
Okay. Lynn, what about you?
So for P&L testing, I did do some with Witham, but I never. But most of my client is non-profit client, so I am not sure that is it a public company, right?
This is a private company, just not So the subsidiary we're on is private, and it's going to be under IFRS, so we're not doing any SEC work, but that's completely fine, right? That's where I wanted to make sure that we're all in agreement, because for expense testing and P&L and revenue testing, Witham wants us to do something. No matter what it is, they want us to do something. So what I mean by that is there's like a whole expense workbook that they have where it's basically just glorified TB tie-out. And what you're doing is on the summary tab, you're adding every single expense on there in subgroups or whatever, however you want to do it. And essentially talking about, okay, this is depreciation. We're not going to test this. We tested this elsewhere. And you don't have to document all that. It's quite literally just a reference, like tested elsewhere. Here's where we tested it, right? So depreciation, you reference PP&E work paper. Amortization, you're going to reference goodwill. Interest expense, you're going to reference debt. Payroll testing, you reference payroll,
Okay,
right?
yeah, I see. Yes, I have
Right, so-
with some client. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's just an example that I'm talking about. And as Michael was mentioning earlier, cost of sales would be something that we reference to the analytics work paper that we're going to do, because we're not going to sample cost of sales. So once you start taking out all of that, whatever you have remaining, like even the 5 million that Michael mentioned, that probably includes some depreciation and all these other things that we're going to exclude, like legal testing, for example. Basically anything that we test elsewhere will be excluded, and then whatever's remaining, that's your population. And after doing this for expense, like instead of trying to figure out some groupings and stuff, I just take the entire balance, throw it into a sampling form, and you're gonna get like maybe 3 or 4 selections, right? It's so much faster to just do that than trying to figure out the ins and outs and cleaning up and all that. It doesn't matter. Include credits, exclude credits, whatever. As long as we're doing something with the numbers, Witham doesn't care. Like, as long as it's part of the population, right? And obviously, I'll walk you guys through this, and I'll have some examples on expense testing binder for that as well. But essentially, that's like the outlook I want everyone to have. In terms of the risk assessment, just high level, I am not expecting this to be our risk for material misstatement will probably be low. We can leave other substantive risk as high, just because based on the value of it, it's not worth our time to do additional procedures to try to reduce that to a lower risk. We might as well leave it at high. So low and high is what we'll do for the sampling form for expenses. For revenue, 2 different ways we can do this, right? If you were to we have to sample the entire detail for the year, no matter what. We have to do it. Now, where the sampling gets crazy is if our existence risk is high and our other substantive risk is also high, you're going to get like 200-300 samples, right? There's no way around it. That's what you're going to get. But here's the question, right? Is existence really high for this client? Like for example, for some of my clients, for revenue, existence is almost never a risk because they have contracts with customers. There's collections that are showing up. We're doing AR testing. We're doing a lot of things. So yeah, and revenue existing is not really an issue unless you know something. Like, the client's kind of doing something shady and it may be weird. Then sure, we can raise the existence. Specifically for this client, it seems like their turnaround time for AR based on the ratios Michael showed us was good. Historically, there haven't been any issues. We send out confirmations for majority of AR. So to me, I think existence is low, and we reduce other substantive risk low as well, because we'll do Witham's favorite work paper, which is proof of cash. So we'll definitely.
Are we going to do a proof of? Have you done a proof of cash?
Yeah, it's very easy. You basically just take the beginning cash balance, ending cash balance, and the middle is just ins and outs, and does that tie to your revenue? It's very, very easy. So and
I've yet
it
to
sounds
do
like they only have one cash balance. So
yeah, I've yet to do one. So you're right. This may be the client to do one on, because a lot of my clients have multiple cash balances, and it's like it gets unwieldy.
Yeah.
So if we do that, if we do a proof of cash and we set it at low, because I totally agree, existence, I cannot wrap my head around how existence for a private company is anything other than low.
Exactly.
The other thing is, this is like I said before, this is a U.S. subsidiary of a much larger foreign parent. They have no external debt. There's no motivation for them to inflate revenue.
Right.
Zero. It does them no good to inflate revenue. So for all those reasons that we'll document, it's not high.
Exactly. So, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is this is our revenue testing work paper last year, so I highly suggest that we don't copy this. We need to follow the WITHM. But what I will point out, what we've discussed is you can see where we dropped in the information from the GL or the sales register. And then all this information is what we snipped. What we've discussed internally is you only need to snip one item.
Agreed.
So we're talking like invoice number. All we need to do is to make it to where an experienced auditor could come back and retrace your steps and come to the same conclusion. So if it saves time not to snip all this information, we want to save that time. The other thing is this over here, this D, when we tested it, we tested the collection. WITHM doesn't test the collection.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not testing that collection. So, look, I think the flip side is we may do a little bit more cutoff testing than we did in the past, but probably not a whole lot more. I think we could probably, revenue may not be as bad as I was originally imagining. So I was going to look right here on sales cutoff. Yeah, we probably did the 5 and 5.
I would probably move the cutoff to revenue work paper now. And based on the testing that I've seen, Michael, so far, some of them we might just select under ISI. And essentially, it looks like the hard part of the testing was the collections, because you have one invoice and then there's all these checks that are coming in, like multiple checks, right? Mm-hmm. But if it's just one-to-one, great. And in terms of data snipping, Michael, I would like to select at least 2 columns. Reason being invoice number for sure, but then the amount, because how else would you get the difference? That's what I've been doing. Yeah. And another cool part is you guys might not even have to do the vouching. You guys will be involved in making the selection, but I would recommend using the India team to do the initial vouching, getting the snips going, and then either Lynn or Mahin can jump in and just review to make sure that it was done correctly. That's all. Because the meeting that we just went to recently, they kind of hammered that in. Like, hey, please use the India team for utilization. Please use it. Honestly, they don't have to tell me. I've been doing that already. They're great. So far, they've been very helpful. Even if it's done incorrectly, we still have someone going in and doing the admin work for us, meaning setting up data snipper. And the load times on the computer, that takes forever. So if someone can do that for us and we just go in and make sure that it's snipped properly, perfect. I mean, you can't ask for anything better, honestly.
See, last year we did 5 and 5. So this may look like more like 12 and 12 or something like that this year, just depending on the size of the transactions, materiality, and all that good stuff.
Right. So in terms of cutoff, though, here's the one thing, right? For the existence testing that we just talked about, where we're going to leave RMM at low and other risk at low, that's for the entire detail of the year. So the GL data revenue selections from January 1 to December 31st, the entire detail, that's your population. For cutoff, that's where we have to get a little bit more inquiry. We need to do some inquiry, because we selected 5 and 5 because that's just PKF standard. But what WITHM wants us to do is figure out what the turnaround time is for your clients, right? So for oil and gas, for example, it's a 2-month turnaround. So for that, we would need 2 months before December 31st and then 2 months after. For this client, I think a month is good. So you would get the revenue detail from December 1st until January 31st of 2025. And that 2 months, that's your population. And in CX 7.1, we're going to make cutoff risk as high. Honestly, I don't even know if we need to make it high. We can leave it as moderate, but that's ultimately your decision at the end of the day, Michael, and we can talk about it too. But whatever risk we set in CX 7.1 for cutoff, that's what we'll bring in the sampling form. And then other substantive risk, again, will be low because we're doing proof of cash. And that 2 month, that's your population. So essentially, instead of doing 300 samples in existence for the entire year. We're avoiding that. We're leaving that at low. We'll probably get like maybe 40 selections, 30, 40, 50. And then cutoff, we're probably going to get a few more just because, but the population is only 2 months versus 12 months of the year.
Yeah.
And essentially the testing is going to be a little bit different too, because we're not using Witham's work paper anymore where we do the whole AIC 606 item. This is more so, is it recorded in the current period? Yes, we'll have the amounts, but we'll have to focus a little bit more on the date as well, the date of service, to figure out if it's recorded in the current period or
and all
not.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. But because of that, as you guys can tell, the significant portion of the work for this audit is inventory, P&L testing. Everything else, like the search, even our scope is going to be so much higher that we'll probably be zooming through a lot of the balance sheet areas. And that's what I have been doing for my audits under Witham, at least, just because we're doing so much more P&L work. We have to kind of step back and stop thinking PKF way, because I spent a significant amount of time on deferred revenue until Nicole and I talked and we're like, who cares? Like, it's not material. We did so much work in revenue, like we would have caught it, right? That's the idea. And that's what Witham does. So I would like to take that approach. Let's get our selections out for P&O. And when we get it back, even if both of you guys are not scheduled anymore, that's fine, because we can grab the folks from India to jump in and vouch, so that when you both have availability, you can jump in and review and make sure that it's done properly and then sign off, right? And that's really the goal here, is to get these selections out while you guys are scheduled, and we can grab someone to help vouch if, you guys roll off, technically.
Yeah. And that's, I guess we probably should talk about that, because we've got a little bit of a mismatch. So Maheen's out the next 2 weeks, but Lynn, it looks like you're here for most of the next 2 weeks. And then when we get to the beginning of the year, you're both scheduled. So, like Ali said, just getting the binder rolled, getting the forms and checklists dropped in, getting samples, doing materiality, risk assessment, getting samples selected. That's kind of like what's first.
Yep.
And Ali can change the order as he sees fit. It may be that we want to do materiality, risk assessment, samples, and then go back and drop in forms and checklists.
Agreed. I would like that.
Yeah. So, but I think that, Lynn, you're probably going to be doing more of the startup work just because you're going to be here. But I agree that once we get those samples selected, we can push that to India for the actual testing. And then when you guys come back in early January, it should be, a lot of just looking over what they've done and then doing the rest of the procedures here. The good news is, a couple good news items. They don't have a hard deadline. That's a catch-22, because sometimes jobs drag when there's no hard deadline. But I feel like we aren't under crazy pressure, other than you've got your next jobs coming up. Yeah. But Maheen, you've got quite a bit of time in January to allocate to this.
I don't know if you were able to talk to Marty about Sandola. I don't know if they've paid yet, and if we're actually going to be doing the audit, because last I spoke to him, Sandola hadn't paid for the previous one, so that's kind of in a limbo, and I'm not sure of the status of that.
And when is that currently on the schedule?
Let me see.
It must be out like at the very last of January, or maybe even first of February.
It's the week of February 16th through ends March 6th on my schedule. So there's 3 weeks on it.
Okay. Yeah, so that's this job, I can go back and look at the budget, but I mean, it's not you get through these, inventories where it's going to be inventory and revenue, but you get through most of the items pretty quickly. Last year, it just took us a long time because we were having to do beginning balance work as well. So we're not doing beginning balance work, and we're not doing the inventory rollback procedures. So this year, And this year we're going to have higher scopes. So I'm hopeful that we get it done, quite a bit, in quite a bit fewer hours than last year. Because I don't think there's nothing crazy's happened,
So, in terms of this, like just the game plan, right? Because Maheen is going to be off soon. Here's what I would recommend, at least for this week, Maheen. If you can jump in and get the risk assessments finalized and materiality finalized, and then Lynn, you can kickstart just setting up the work papers for expense workbook and revenue and stuff like that. You can probably use AMPP, as a binder that we just recently issued under Witham. You can also do Covenant High Plains, but that one only has interim work done in there. So, you can kind of shuffle through both, whatever you want to look at. The only caveat with AMP is they had all these batch details. So the revenue testing is not the perfect match, but the work papers are there, the templates are there, right?
Yeah, it's the templates.
Really, right. And I would just say kind of follow that guideline before. And obviously, I would like to review before any selections are sent out for revenue and expenses, just because it's a significant chunk. And we need to make sure that before we send it out to the client, it's appropriate. But yeah, if you guys can get that kind of going, get that started, and I'll jump in and review as possible so we can at least have these sent out to the client and leave it in their court. After that, whoever's available, then we can work on forms, controls, just go through the binder, right? And thankfully we're kind of like a year ahead. So there shouldn't be delays and pending items on support. As soon as we reach out to the client, we should hear back. The only thing, Michael, I'm not sure if you've sent out an introduction to Arcelor with.
So that's what I was going to say is I'd like to set up a quick Teams call before end of day Friday, just to get on the phone and just introduce ourselves, establish that contact. So I'll look for like a 15-minute window that we can do that real quick. I'll send an email in advance. When you were talking about all the different templates, just be sure. So for instance, in the on the network, we already have the full GL for 24. We can go ahead and send that off to get the GL role done.
The GL completeness.
Yeah. And just make sure that we have like the audit sufficiency form in there, the confirmation form, all the different with them. And I'm sure if you look at AMPP, you'll find all of those with them. I don't know, there's 4 or 5, files that we need to make sure we tuck in because that's what they look for.
So only AMP would be a good binder to look at with like the Witham way of testing.
Yeah, it's finalized as it's gone under Witham transition. So I'm hoping TR didn't miss anything. If they did, okay. I'm sorry.
The only thing is it's a not-for-profit, so you have to keep that in mind, right?
Yes, yes. But it has the expense workbook, and it has the revenue workbook, and all that. Basically like things that we can pull out. Ignore the not-for-profit side, of course, but like the essential workbooks that I remember going through, and because it had so many accounts, I think we did a great job at like segregating out and only testing what's remaining. So using that as a baseline would be nice. Obviously, Lynn, as you're going through, and if you hit a stopping point, you're like, okay, there's too many debits and credits in this detail. There's too much craziness going on. Let me know, because that's what I want to get to as well. I want to make sure that we're not spending time cleaning up the GL, because we don't have to anymore. We can group it. We can sub. There's a million ways to do it. But, once you get to it, I want you to take a stab at it, and then we'll talk. Okay. But if it's taking you more than 30 minutes, reach out.
Sure.
Ellie, can't that be if it's instead of us taking time? And I haven't seen the details, so I'm not sure. Can't we send it through Central Analytics or ServiceNow to look through it and take it off our plate?
We've tried. So they don't help you with the reversals. They're not going to do the cleanup for debits and credits. What they'll do is they'll assign groupings and codings and all these things, so it helps you pivot things better. But the cleanup part, you kind of have to do it yourself. However, why? The point is, like, before we used to do that when we ran an idea sample and all that good stuff, but now we don't need to do that anymore, because let's say for some of my clients where they have an invoice number and it's just debits, credits, debits, credits, debits, credits, and then they finally have this one final actual invoice. So if you were to just sum up or subtotal it on the invoice number, you'll have all these debits and credits in there, like the entire history, but the final balance will be what the client actually recorded. And essentially that's my point here. I want to look at the detail to see if that's possible, and if it is, before I send the client the entire 60 selections, I like to send them like 3. Hey, I've made these selections. There's like 15 line items here, but it looks like it's only 3 selections. So can you confirm the support you're going to send us is only 3 invoices, or is it going to be like 15? Because we want to make sure that they're not over providing invoices too.
Right. And I'll be able to get to the planning maybe later this week. I'm helping out Gloria with some of our country clubs, and then I'll reach out as I work through it and look at materiality.
Can you get the materiality going though?
Yeah.
At least. Yeah. So get the materiality going, and it can be high level. Again, it's 2.5%. Just so Lynn can get started on the
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and we'll be doing 75%. Times.
And the 2.5? Are we against it with the 2.5?
So 0, 2.5, 75%, and trivial is 5% of whatever TM is.
Gotcha. Okay.
And one thing I should mention: don't use trivial for anything. Don't do it. Like, you don't need it. Analytics, anything you think of you need trivial for, search scope, don't use it. The only time trivial is relevant is if you have a difference. That's when you use trivial to figure out if we need a PAGI or not. But for analytics, scope selections, whatever it is, we're starting off with TM as a baseline. For search, half of TM, 1/3, but that's later. We don't need to worry about search right now. I'm more concerned about P&O, and I'll post in the group chat what I think the risk assessments should be. So that way, Lynn, when you're doing the sampling forms, you'll know what to put on the forms.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to roll forward the binder right now, and I'm getting rid of the opening balance section because it's just giving me anxiety looking at it.
Yeah, that's fine. And so, however you want to do. Lynn, if you want to help import the TB, so that might be something you can help with right now. And then Maheen,
I can do the materiality.
Materiality.
Yeah.
That would be great. Just so we can get this rolling. I know everyone's off, and I want to make sure we take advantage of the India team since they will not be off on the December time, right? So I think it kind of works out perfectly. So when we come back, things should be ready for us to review. Oh. Ideally, in an ideal world, that's how things work, but it's audit. So we'll see.
We'll have to, on our short call with the controller's name is Omar. We'll see what his schedule is as well. I mean, if he's completely out of pocket the last 2 weeks, we might run into a little bit of a problem, but we'll see. Yeah, I think we got quite a bit of work to kind of keep us busy for a little while. Then we can fill out items that we need in SureLink and just get the process going.
Let me post in the chat real quick the assessments for this.
They don't have their SureLink set up yet, right? Or do they?
Well, they have a SureLink. It probably just needs to be rolled.
Okay.
To the 24 audit, however you do that.
Gotcha. And then they've uploaded stuff on Box, I see. Or it's been dropped. Okay.
By the way, Maheen, whenever you do planning, give me a call. I'm going to show you how to use Copilot. I'm not sure if you've done it yet, but Copilot is incredible. I need everyone to use it.
The thing on Google, or?
No, it's something that Witham has provided for us. It is actually incredible. Don't copy paste. I'll be able to tell if you copy paste it, but it's very nice to get your brain working, right? Like, instead of just sitting there trying to figure out what's going on, it's kind of nice to have them do the initial research for you, and then you can use that as a guideline with planning and documentation and whatnot. I think it's great. So
gotcha. Okay.
That's something that they also told us to start using as well. So it's probably going to be a metric sometime soon. So might as well get used to it now,
Oh my God! When you are doing that, can you add me in the meeting because I want to learn as well. I heard Patrick say something about Copilot, but just hear something, but never actually do something or see something.
Right. See it.
Yeah.
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 There's so much that comes through, like half of the stuff gets ignored in my inbox.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It's to me it's like, okay, if it's important enough, they'll reach out again.
Okay, I just messaged in the group chat the risk that we can use, Lynn, for when you do the sample items, just to kind of get it going. But obviously, we'll make it more formal when we do the actual CX 7.1.
So I will start working on this project from next week, right?
You can start now if you have time.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
We have all the details, like as Michael mentioned, we have everything, or at least the initial items, already on the network. Technically, we're not scheduled yet, but we just found time now, so it's best to kind of get it going. It's one of those clients that doesn't have a deadline, but the more you push it off, you'll never get it done. So we might as well get it started now.
Okay.
Yeah, and to the extent we have the AR aging, the inventory detail, all of that, I mean, you can put it in the binder and at least tie it out, make sure it ties, and, just kind of get all the legwork done. Then we can plan to have our official planning meeting, early January when we're all back. I mean, I don't know. That's going to be interesting. We may have to.
Let's see what the client says, right? Let's see what their schedule looks like, and then we can figure it out.
Yeah.
But the cool part, as I mentioned, right, the cool part about not having to use IDEA anymore, these risk assessments that I sent you, if something were to change, cool. We can always just manually change our samples. We're not using IDEA anymore. So it's like we can definitely get started and get a head start on things, for sure.
Yeah. The only other thing that I need to track down is, since this is
The trainings, right?
Huh?
Is it the CPE trainings for IFRS?
Well, the CPE, if you work on an IFRS engagement,
Right.
you have to have, I think it's 8 hours of CPE, but I don't think that's not for everybody on the team. I don't believe. I think it's for me, and it may be for Ali, but that's what I need to figure out, is like who all needs to have that. I've already got like 9 hours in my LC Vista tagged of CPE training, and it's like 1.5 hours at a time. So between now and the end of January, I'm just going to knock out, a little bit of CPE here and there to get my hours. So I'll figure that out. I'll ask somebody, because I'm looking at the QC document, and I'm just not seeing where it says that. Anyway, I think we've got, like I said, this is a nice, it should be a really straightforward job. Good one to kick off the year. We've got some time on the schedule. We might as well fill it. So, I say we just get cranking, and I'll reach out and ask for a quick meeting just to make introductions. And, we'll go from there.
All right.
And,
I'll be bugging you,
Ali,
Yeah.
remind me, when are you out?
So I am actually, I was looking at my schedule. For some reason, my PTO was only reflected on beginning of January. I'm not sure why. But even right now, yes, beginning of January, I'm out. of town, and I have a few days off in end of December, but true PTO would be January because then I won't have my laptop with me as well since I won't be in town. But in December, last week of December, I'll be available just because all the inventory counts and all these things going on. So if anybody has questions, I can definitely help out. But I'm not. I won't be 100% 8 hours a day, most likely.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll be the same way.
Yeah. And then of course there's the state of the farm traveling. So that's
the
shot.
thing.
I promise you that week is shot. So yeah, I learned that from the leadership training, and that was only 1 day. We lost 3 days for that. So for this thing being 3 days, there's no way.
Yeah.
that week is shot.
I wish I could go, but I have separation anxiety when I leave my daughter.
No, I get that. Trust me, I get that.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, and by the way, just a message for the team. I am part-time and my hours I'm on at 7 a.m. and I get off at 1. And if I get on at 8, I'll get off at 2. So, but those are usually my hours.
Well, that sounds like someone that can definitely talk with the India team before they log off. So.
Perfect.
All right.
All right. Well, thank y'all for the time. I'll get a meeting pulled together, and then anything we need to talk about, just let me know. I'm happy to jump on. And,
all right, sounds good.
All right, Lynn, when you're able to get the trial balance in, can you just message me, and then I can do the planning materiality worksheet?
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks, and just keep me updated, guys. As you make progress, I'll try to jump in where I can to start reviewing. As I mentioned again, this is a new year for all of us for Witham. So I believe upper management, even partners, have to be a little bit more heavily involved in our samples and our procedures before we send it out to the client, just because it is a significant amount of things that we're requesting. However, I have noticed that clients are completely fine with it. It seems like it's easier for them to just give you invoices and payment support than explaining how a schedule works. So for them, they can just grab things and upload it. It's been easier for them, but it is a shift. So if there's any kind of awkwardness you get from the client or any pushback, let me know. I'll jump in where I can, and then if I can't resolve it, that's where Michael plays his card. So we'll see what needs to be done. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
y'all have a good day.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Je ne mets, je ne mets, je ne mets. Je ne mets. Je ne mets. Good morning, gentlemen. I hope you have a great Tuesday as a possible deposit